This podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/Bogosity. There's over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. That's audibletrial.com/Bogosity. Welcome to the Bogosity podcast for the 27th of June 2016, the podcast that Barney's with the Burks. This is your host, Shane Killian, and joining me again is Travis Retriever. Travis, welcome back to the show.
Good to be back, bro.
Let's secede from the news of the bogus. And the big news this week is the Brexit vote, where the UK voted to leave the European Union. Leave won by 52 to 48%. The referendum turnout was 71.8%, which was the highest turnout at a UK election since 1992.
Wow.
Over 30 million people voted.
So this was definitely something with strong opinions going both ways.
Oh yeah, as you can see from the controversy leading up to it.
Oh yeah?
And now it seems to have resulted in the resignation of British Prime Minister David Cameron. And he said, quote, "The British people have voted to leave the EU and their will must be respected. The will of the British people is an instruction which must be delivered. There can be no doubt about the result." And he didn't say when he was going to leave, but he said he wanted a new leader to be in place by October, which is when the Conservative Party holds its annual conference.
So I actually have seen posts on Facebook from, friends of mine in the UK, obviously being against it, and I've seen some stuff from Teal Deer on this. His main issue with it seems to be, if they leave the EU, how there are issues, with their infrastructure, their healthcare, their welfare, and housing costs, and I keep thinking, which sounds more like reasons against having those things done by government. Obviously, it can't go up forever and ever.
Yeah, and it was kind of disappointing to watch the Brexit debate between Thunderfoot and Sargon of Akkad, because they were both conceding the point that immigration is bad for native unskilled workers, which, as we know, is just not true.
Yeah, I basically just posted that journal and video of yours on it, admitting that, with the caveat that it's a bit US-centric, but, last I checked, economics doesn't change just because of what border you're on.
Well, because I also have sources where it examines it in the UK and Europe, and you see the same thing.
Oh, yeah. Foreign-born folk actually take less in welfare and other such programs than they do in taxes by comparison to natural-born citizens. And even if that wasn't the case, that's more of an argument against the welfare state.
Yeah, but apparently that's just not up for debate.
Yeah.
So the favourite to replace Cameron is former London Mayor Boris Johnson, who was pro-leave. He was pro the Brexit departure. And Predicted is favoring him as Cameron's replacement 72 to 28.
Wow.
And Johnson said, quote, "I think the electorate have searched in their hearts and answered as honestly as they can. They have decided to vote to take back control from a European Union that has become too remote."
I mean, a lot of it was admittedly for the wrong reasons, the immigrants, the migrants, etc., but for the wrong reasons, as we call that.
And a lot of it depends on what they do next, but...
Well, yeah.
One thing that might happen... Nicola Sturgeon, Scotland's First Minister, said that she wants to, quote, "take all possible steps and explore all the options for remaining in the EU." So it sounds like there might be another Scottish independence referendum in our future, and if they get their independence, they might rejoin the EU.
And it looks like Ireland is considering something like that as well.
Well, Northern Ireland. Ireland is already in the EU, and Northern Ireland is talking about seceding from the UK and reunifying with Ireland, which would put them into the EU since Ireland's a member state.
Okay, sounds fair to me. I mean, if it's great for the UK to have that kind of independence and for their citizens to do what they want in that sense politically, then yeah, I don't see any objection to that as well.
Now, I think this quote from German Chancellor Angela Merkel is interesting. She says that we, quote, "need to make sure that European people feel that the EU wants to improve all our lives." Notice she didn't say we need to make sure that the EU does improve all our lives. Just people need to feel that.
You notice that too, huh? Because it's all about the fees, am I right?
But then, of course, you had one of the big driving forces behind the Leave campaign, Nigel Farage of UKIP. He said that the EU was a dying institution, quote, We've given ourselves the chance to rejoin the world. June 23rd needs to become a national bank holiday, and we will call it Independence Day. But it does raise an interesting question, because UK is the UK Independence Party. Their one issue has been leaving the EU. So now what? What's the party going to do now? Are they going to dissolve? Are they going to,
That's a good question.
Now, for this CNN link, first of all, fair warning, there's an autoplay video, boo, CNN.
Boo.
And the ABC link coming up is the same way. But I do think you should just skip the whole section about markets start freaking out.
Mm-hmm.
What they have is the Nikkei dropped 6.7%, Hong Kong drops 3.7%, US futures down 2%, oil down 4%, gold up 6%. This is noise.
You thought so too, right?
This is the kind of thing they do.
Glad I'm not the only one who thought that. The sky is falling! The sky is falling!
And oil has already recovered. The S&P was previously up, so that might just be a regression to the mean. The British pound is now up like 10%. And as for gold, how it's, the gold is this big alarm that bad things are going to happen. But silver, platinum, and neodymium are all up as well, so that's probably just a surge in the commodities market.
Yeah, this is a fun little tip I had. Now, I've told you about that one economics professor I had. One thing he did say that I did legitimately like was, as an investor, you cannot freak out at every single bit of fluctuation like that. If you do, then you're not going to be a very good investor.
And no one knows what really causes these fluctuations. It's all just speculation.
No kidding.
Because, you have all these people for CNN Money and CNBC and all these other places where, oh yes, we have our article now that it's closed. Oh, you see it went down, and that's because of this, that, and this. Here's an exercise you can do. Any given day, like after lunch, 1 or 2 o'clock, go on Google News. Don't even confine yourself to the finance pages, just in general, and see how many things happen that would explain the market dropping and how many things happening that would explain the market going up. And if you want to be one of these analysts, all you have to do is write one article about why it went down, one article about why it went up, and one article about why it was more or less the same. And then when it happens, you just publish whichever one matches.
Pretty much.
That's exactly what they do. They're not these amazing people with this amazing knowledge about stuff, So now Dutch politician Geert Wilders is calling for a Dutch referendum on EU membership. Quote, "We want to be in charge of our own country, our own money, our own borders, and our own immigration policy. If I become Prime Minister, there will be a referendum in the Netherlands on leaving the European Union as well. Let the Dutch people decide." And you also have Marine Le Pen, I'm almost certainly mispronouncing that, but the leader of France's National Front Party, congratulated the pro-Brexit side, and she has suggested that the French should also hold an out referendum and said that she would do that if she assumed the presidency, which their elections are next year.
I can't help but fantasize about Germany doing the same thing. A lot of the Eurotrash folk I know talk about, Germany, they're the economic powerhouse of Europe, yada yada yada, which sounds like a reason for them not to have their teeth sucked at by the EU, and by failing nations like Greece.
Right, and the way they became the economic superpower was they had a sound money policy for the Deutschmark. And then when they joined the EU fully, they went over to the euro.
Yeah.
And apparently there was a lot of strong arming there, and a lot of Germans they've been wanting out for years, I think, so who knows what'll happen there.
It's like, come on, Germany, join with your British cousins. We love you. We care about you. That's why we know you need to be out of this abusive relationship, damn it.
So, now what happens? No one's really sure. Presumably, Prime Minister Cameron will trigger Article 50 of the Lisbon Treaty, which is how you can leave the European Union. And we don't know when he would do it. He said he'd probably do it fairly soon. But it's possible that he could choose instead to repeal the 1972 European Communities Act and just unilaterally withdraw from the EU. But that might anger a lot of the EU states because they're still going to want to trade with them. And they're still going to want good relations with them.
Of course. Something I never understood about these weird-ass, trade agreements, like NAFTA in the US. Why do you need an entire book's worth of pages for a so-called free trade agreement? Just trade freely. Come on. This isn't rocket science.
A free trade agreement should be one sentence long.
Yep.
There shall be no restrictions on trade between X and Y.
I mean, yeah, I don't know why they have to make this stuff so complicated.
But apparently they wouldn't be able to deal with the EU member states directly. They would still have to make the treaties with the EU.
I list the EU and the UN as two things that need to die.
Yeah, so the concern seems to be how they can make the exit without ticking off all of these European Union states that they're still going to need to deal with. And also, apparently, this referendum isn't binding in and of itself. Even if Cameron does invoke Article 50, it'll still have to be approved by Parliament, which is still majority pro-Remain.
Yeah, that would suck.
So, I mean, what happens if they just block the deal themselves?
Well, it did say that if they do try to block it, there's a pretty good chance a lot of them will likely be voted out of office, if that's the case, given how much passion is involved in this, but we'll see.
Say, if you're tired of the promos in this podcast, well, the patrons got it early and with no ads or promos. Just go to patreon.bogosity.tv and donate at any level.
Hey everybody, this is Dave of the Superplex Bros, and you're listening to the Bogosity Podcast. When you're done, why don't you head over to superplexbros.com. We have all kinds of editorials and reviews on video games and pro wrestling. We're also currently hosting a major project called the Superplex Pokemon League, and we're about to go into our third season. We just had our actual draft, and we're going over all of the teams and their draft picks. So why don't you head on over there, check things out, and if you like, you can even check out the Superplex Brothers podcast, where Matt and I basically bullshit about video games, pro wrestling, or whatever the hell we want. Anyway, until next time, take care.
Back home, another vote didn't go the way the big government statists wanted. House Democrats wanted to completely abrogate the Fifth Amendment's right to due process by denying gun rights to anyone on the terrorist watch list and the TSA no-fly list, secret lists that people get on with no court hearing or even notification and have no way of getting off of.
And for those who don't realize how completely idiotic these lists are, they even have kids on them as young as 6. I'm not making that up.
But these Democratic politicians really showed their true colors when they halted business in Congress for 17 hours by staging a sit-in. And this included Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi and about a dozen other Democratic members. How they thought this was going to lead to a vote on gun control, I'm not sure, but they said they've been silent too long about the epidemic of shootings and...
Silent about it? Every time there's a shooting or even a gun wound that isn't from the police or military, you flip your shit. You people are liars.
So, Speaker Ryan tried to call the chamber back into order, and they started chanting "no bill, no break," meaning they won't allow Congress to go on break until they pass the bill.
Yeah, so to the folks listen to this, I suggest you read the whole article. I mean, they just come off as complete infants who were denied their favorite toy and who are in dire need of a timeout.
Yeah, and it was so loud you couldn't even hear Ryan speak, and he released a statement saying, quote, "Democrats can continue to talk, but the reality is that they have no in-game strategy. The Senate has already defeated the measure they're calling for. The House is focused on eliminating terrorists, not constitutional rights of law-abiding citizens. No stunts on the floor will change that."
Yes, but they're totally the party for civil liberties and against the evil of the Bush administration, right? Unless, of course, it's their people and their president.
And I just had to share this tweet from Justin Amash, quote, "Democrats are staging a sit-in on the House floor. They refuse to leave until our Constitution replaces due process with secret lists." And that's what this is really all about. And if they got their way, do you really think it would be limited to just gun ownership?
No kidding.
So after 17 hours, Congress finally went on break, and then the Democrats ended the sit-in and declared victory even though there was no vote or anything like that.
Yeah.
So they didn't get what they wanted. They just made themselves look like petulant children, and that's a victory somehow.
Because potato. Hey, remember when that Bundy bloke was protesting by occupying an empty federal building and were being laughed at because, LOL, they're getting snacks, well, I guess they're not that good at this after all. Well, people were bringing these folks care packages, that is, the Democratic representatives, care packages, snacks, pillows.
Even back rubs, according to one report.
Oh my god. Good lord. I mean, what are they, like 5?
5-year-olds could weather it better than that. Don't insult 5-year-olds.
Yeah, you got me there.
But it's like, the Bundys do a sit-in, and it's domestic terrorism. And they were even, God, this really honked me off. They were singing We Shall Overcome. Now that is a song from the civil rights movement protesting the segregation laws, which was another form of denial of due process. And let's not forget, Martin Luther King was a gun owner on an FBI watch list.
And adding to that, he was a conservative Christian, a gun owner, and a lawbreaker.
Yep.
Okay? He wanted that shit overturned and abolished. And if I recall correctly, even went to jail for it.
And these Democrats are a disgrace to his memory and everything he fought for. How dare they use that song to push their own agenda, an agenda that completely violates the due process and the constitutional principles that Dr. King was standing up for.
Or the fact that it was these Democrats who actually wrote the Jim Crow laws in the first place.
And filibustered the Civil Rights Act in the Senate.
Which itself was a watered-down version of Eisenhower's Civil Rights Act.
Yep.
But, they're totally pro-civil rights and stuff, right? No, they aren't. Yeah, no, they're about the most bigoted group of people you'll ever meet, as far as the political parties are concerned, and always have been, pretty much from the get-go.
Well, pretty much every single one of their policies is from the eugenics movement.
Yeah, minimum wage being one such example.
Minimum wage, welfare, social security, all of that.
And, of course, the war on drugs. Kind of hard to ignore the comments of the original architect of that program, talking about how pot and jazz like evil black culture or something, and he wanted it eradicated, or something really nasty like that. But, of course, how many Democrats do you know are totally for ending the war on drugs? I can't think of a whole lot.
Hackers, terrorists, the NSA. But I repeat myself. Your online security is under attack, and the weakest point is your password. That's why you need LastPass. LastPass plugs into your browser and allows you to randomly generate strong, unique passwords anywhere on the web, all protected by one master password. LastPass sets up in minutes and gives you secure automatic logins throughout the web, synchronizing across all your browsers and all your computers, at home, at work, or on the road. It even securely stores sensitive form data, including credit card numbers, backup sensitive documents, membership info, Wi-Fi logins, and more. And with LastPass Premium, you can get these benefits on other applications and even mobile devices, and also get priority customer support. Sign up at password.bogosity.tv for a free month of LastPass Premium. Log in securely everywhere using the last password you'll ever have to remember. Go to password.bogosity.tv and get LastPass now. I think we're going to have some surreal Supreme Court decisions this year since the court is one member short, and nothing on that is likely to happen until after the election. On Thursday, they voted that universities could refuse to accept white students based solely on the color of their skin in the name of affirmative action.
Oh, but that doesn't count because privilege, Shane. It's the current year. Ugh.
And this was Fisher versus University of Texas in a 4-3 vote. So instead of 5-4, it's now 4-3, I guess. Because I think it was Kagan who had a conflict and had to sit out this one.
And of course, you gotta love all these 4-5, 4-3, 3-4, whatever decisions. It was like I said before, I mean, come on! They might as well be flipping coins!
Yeah, there was even a 4-4 this week. What was it?
Shit. Something about, what was it, like deporting all the illegals or something? I can't remember.
Oh, yeah, it was trying to uphold Obama's immigration policy, and they were 4-4. And I mean, it's basically a tie. These are the people who supposedly know the laws better than anyone else in the country, and they can't even agree on what the law says.
Yeah, but, ignorance for the law is no excuse, you pleb.
So Harvard law professor Lawrence H. Tribe said, quote, No decision since Brown versus Board of Education has been as important as Fisher will prove to be in the long history of racial inclusion and educational diversity. Because nothing says racial inclusion and educational diversity like keeping out the white people.
Yeah, it's crap like this that gives the alt-right, wrong and despicable as they are, the kind of fuel that is pressed on and has gotten them to nominate Trump. You people are directly to blame for this crap.
Well, before we go any further, we should probably say specifically what the case was about.
Yeah, we should.
Abigail Fisher was a white woman who was denied admission to the University of Texas based solely on her race, and she ended up having to go to Louisiana State to get her degree. And she said, quote, "I am disappointed that the Supreme Court has ruled that students applying to the University of Texas can be treated differently because of their race or ethnicity. I hope that the nation will one day move beyond affirmative action."
Seconded.
So President Obama hailed it. He said, quote, "I'm pleased that the Supreme Court upheld the basic notion that diversity is an important value in our society. We are not a country that guarantees equal outcomes, but we do strive to provide an equal shot to everybody, unless you're a white girl in Texas."
Yeah. Also, diversity apparently just means whatever the hell they want it to. It's just more newspeak.
So Justice Kennedy wrote for the majority, and one of the things he said was, quote, "A university is in large part defined by those intangible qualities which are incapable of objective measurement, but which make for greatness." And that is a quote from a desegregation case, Sweat versus Painter, where the court actually said it was wrong to deny admission because of skin color, but him on Sweat was a black guy, so that makes it totes different.
Yeah. It's like, on a lot of these stories, it looks like they're just basically wiping their asses with the documentation and papers and pictures of these people who actually fought and risked their lives for civil rights. I mean, this is a joke.
And he said, quote, "It remains an enduring challenge to our nation's education system to reconcile the pursuit of diversity with the constitutional promise of equal treatment and dignity." So wait a minute, did he just admit that the pursuit of diversity is at odds with equal treatment?
Oh, well, the Constitution says, yeah, citation needed, bro.
Well, equal protection is in the 14th Amendment.
Well, yeah.
But that was exactly what they denied her.
Yeah.
They just denied Fisher equal protection.
No kidding.
So, joining Kennedy's majority opinion were Ginsburg, Breyer, and Sotomayor. Again, Kagan had to recuse herself from the case. And opposing it, voting against it, was Justice Alito, saying, quote, "UT's primary argument is that merely invoking the educational benefits of diversity is sufficient and that it need not identify any metric that would allow a court to determine whether its plan is needed to survive or is actually serving those interests. This is nothing less than the plea for deference that we emphatically rejected in our prior decision. Today, however, the court inexplicably grants that request. What the majority has now done is simply wrong." And he also said, quote, "What is not at stake is whether UT or any other university may adopt an admissions plan that results in a student body with a broad representation of students from all racial and ethnic groups. UT previously had a race-neutral plan that it claimed had effectively compensated for the loss of affirmative action. And UT could have taken other steps that would have increased the diversity of its admitted students without taking race or ethnic background into account. What is at stake is whether university administrators may justify systematic racial discrimination simply by asserting that such discrimination is necessary to achieve the educational benefits of diversity without explaining, much less proving, why the discrimination is needed or how the discriminatory plan is well crafted to serve its objectives. Even though UT has never provided any coherent explanation for its asserted need to discriminate on the basis of race, and even though UT's position relies on a series of unsupported and noxious racial assumptions, the majority concludes that UT has met its heavy burden. This conclusion is remarkable and remarkably wrong." Alito was joined in the dissent by Chief Justice Roberts and also Justice Thomas, who wrote his own dissent. And by the way, Justice Thomas is the only black justice on the Supreme Court. And he wrote, quote, "The Constitution abhors classifications based on race because every time the government places citizens on racial registers and makes race relevant to the provision of burdens or benefits, it demeans us all. That constitutional imperative does not change in the face of a faddish theory that racial discrimination may produce educational benefits."
Well said. I really hate to be the one to say this, but between the fact that his name is actually Tom, he's a black guy, and he dissented from that ruling, I can't not imagine tons of people calling him Herder Uncle Tom Herder.
Oh, they have over the years.
Oh, God.
That boat sailed a long time ago.
God.
And of course, once again, from people who haven't actually read Uncle Tom's Cabin.
Yeah, wasn't he the hero in that?
Yep, Uncle Tom was the hero. Now you can make Amazon purchases with Bitcoin by going to purse.bogosity.tv. That's P-U-R-S-E. Moreover, most purchases can be made at a discount. Save an average of 20% just by buying from Purse, or get even greater discounts by linking your Amazon wish list. Go to purse.bogosity.tv. Bogosity.tv is a participant in the Amazon Services LLC Associates Program, an affiliate advertising program designed to provide a means for sites to earn advertising fees by advertising and linking to Amazon.com. Just clear your cookies and go to amazon.bogosity.tv, or check the right-hand side of the podcast page for Amazon's best deals, including the deal of the day and limited-time lightning deals on all sorts of great products. So next time you buy online, go to amazon.bogosity.tv. And one more way the people in government who are supposed to be protecting us are clueless of even the rudiments of encryption and cybersecurity. Of course, as we've discussed at length, they want companies to put backdoors into encryption products so they can spy on us, and one of the many problems with this is that terrorists will just use products from other countries. Now, incredibly, I just can't believe this, CIA Director John Brennan has come right out and denied the existence of any encryption product originating from outside the US.
I mean, just the first two sentences of this are just downright painful. Quote, CIA Director John Brennan told U.S. senators that they shouldn't worry about mandatory encryption backdoors hurting American businesses. And that's because, according to Brennan, there's no one else for people to turn to. If they don't want to use U.S.-based technology because it's been forced to use weakened cryptography, they'll be out of luck because non-American solutions are simply theoretical.
Yeah, they don't really exist. It's going to be good old American backdoored encryption or no encryption at all.
I don't even need to know much about this stuff to realize that that's a load of bunk.
So these remarks were made at a congressional hearing this past Thursday when Senator Ron Wyden questioned the CIA support of weakening cryptography through backdoors, and Brennan said, quote, U.S. companies dominate the international market as far as encryption technologies that are available through these various apps, and I think we will continue to dominate them. So although you are right that there's the theoretical ability of foreign companies to have those encryption capabilities available to others, I do believe that this country and its private sector are integral to addressing these issues. But as this article points out, Bruce Schneier, back in February, did a study and found 865 different encryption products already in use around the world from developers in 55 countries. Only about a third of those encryption packages were from the US.
Yeah, so he's basically arguing with and just outright denying observed fact at this point.
Yeah, and if they had their way and got all these backdoors installed, what are people going to do? They're going to drop the American products and get the ones from Europe or wherever. And by the way, how do you count an open source piece of software? What's that from? What country?
Yeah.
It just happens in cyberspace.
No kidding.
So Senator Wyden said, quote, it is clearly inaccurate to say that foreign encryption is a theoretical capability. Requiring companies to build backdoors in their products to weaken strong encryption will put the personal safety of Americans at risk at a dangerous time, and, I want to make this clear, I will fight such a policy with everything I have.
Good on you, man. Good on you.
Yeah, it's good that we've actually got a few people in Congress and the Senate who actually understand cyber technology.
Yeah. Strange, I know. I mean, we've already gone over how completely asinine the stuff is before. Like, one, math is math, it's the same for the hackers and terrorists as it is for everyone else. Two, what they're doing completely defeats the purpose of encryption in its entirety. Three, quadruple Bogon points if he's one of those same idiots who goes off about, oh, we need the TSA, oh, security, security, security. Unless it's something that's inconvenient to me or in my agenda, then to hell with it.
Yeah, pretty much. But I don't remember if I brought up this Bruce Schneier quote before, but one of the things he said was, And this was actually in the introduction to his applied cryptography textbook, which is an awesome textbook if you can get a hold of it. It's out of date, but the concepts are still valid. He said there's only two kinds of encryption. Encryption that stops major governments from reading your message, and encryption that stops your little sister. So if we let them break encryption so that the major governments can read what we're doing, guess which category that forces it into?
Yeah.
If you're on the Wi-Fi in a coffee shop or hotel, anyone on that network can get your traffic. Do you really trust all of those strangers? For that matter, do you really trust your ISP? A VPN can protect you from prying eyes, disguise your location, and even foil government censors. It's essential in this day and age, so go to vpn.bogosity.tv and you'll be taken to BoxPN. Starting at just $2.99 a month, you can get unlimited high-speed connections to VPN servers all over the world, and they don't log connections, so your privacy is assured. Traveling abroad, just VPN home, and don't worry about what those other governments are doing. Back at home, stop your ISP from traffic shaping and messing with the quality internet access you're paying good money for. You can connect from multiple machines at once, including your smartphone or tablet, and it supports all the secure standards, including OpenVPN and SSTP. Bypass censors and surveillance with your own secure VPN connection. Go to vpn.bogosity.tv. And now it's time to metastasize this week's biggest Bogon emitter. And it's yet another bogus anti-GMO study, this time from anti-GMO pundit Glenn Stone, who is an anthropology professor and isn't in any way qualified to speak on genetics or nutrition or anything of that nature.
So basically, he's basically an ivory tower academic elitist, lecturing poor people in developing nations who are starving to death about what they should eat.
Pretty much, yeah, but of course this is being passed around all over the leftist conspiracy crazy sites as yet more information that GMOs are bad, even though there was precisely none before.
Because the left, as we all know, are totes pro-science, you guys.
So we covered golden rice. This is GMO rice. It has 3 added genes to have it produce beta-carotene, which metabolizes to vitamin A when eaten. And this is a big boon to countries like in the Philippines where children are going blind and even dying from vitamin A deficiencies. And we've covered in the past how the terrorist group Greenpeace has destroyed crops of golden rice because apparently it's better for children to starve than to eat GMO rice.
And then have the gall after that to whine how, well, it's untested. I mean, I'm sorry if I'm sounding a bit irate, but it's really hard to restrain one's anger watching these rich first world or ivory tower elitists take pride in the fact that there are basically starving people to death in the third and developing worlds. My God!
So, Stone released a study last month, Disembedding Grains, Golden Rice, the Green Revolution, and Heirloom Seeds in the Philippines, where he tries poking holes in all of the claims about golden rice and even addressing the role of the international anti-GMO activists, saying, quote, "Golden rice is still not ready for the market, but we find little support for the common claim that environmental activists are responsible for stalling its introduction. GMO opponents have not been the problem." Now, the biggest issue with that is his source, and that's a paper by Adrian Dubbock of the Golden Rice Humanitarian Board, where he covers all the progress and challenges that golden rice has been experiencing. And the thing about it is, he continually ignores the numerous places in Dubbock's report where he says that, yeah, a lot of it is due to anti-GMO activists. Quote, "Right from the first Golden Rice Humanitarian Board meeting in August 2000, and at every subsequent step, scientific progress of research has been shaped and impeded by the regulatory requirements for GMO crops." And he's specifically referring to the Cartagena Protocol on Biosafety, which was all of these neo-Luddites and anti-GMO people, including Greenpeace, and they're all actively saying, yep, we did that, and they're all proud of that. And Dubbock says, quote, "The ability of the international cooperators to share golden rice seed and pool their seed breeding resources was increasingly restricted as the malevolence of the Cartagena Protocol took root in increasingly bureaucratic obligations. As the debate became more intense, some institutional participants became frightened of potential liability issues. Most international organizations quietly avoided any funding or association with GMO crops, even those which clearly had huge potential for good, such as golden rice. And he talked about the insidious impact it's had on the science and how it's basically eroded all of the collaboration and funding for golden rice, which is completely against what Stone said. And this is Stone's own source.
I don't even think we can really call that quote mining at this point. It's just outright lying about what his own source said. But what also really kicked it up into high gear for me especially was the point that a lot of the biotech companies in particular, they did this completely without the need for profit.
Yeah, they gave up all their patents. Yeah.
So they can't bitch and whine about, well, it's her for profit, even though their own organic industry is raking over $30 billion in profits and increasing a year. But, that doesn't count because reasons.
So this past February, Stone participated in a podcast interview where he espoused a theory from Mother Joneson reporter Tom Philpott. You people think I'm kidding when I'm saying I want that to become an expletive.
Oh, God.
Which is about whether or not golden rice has actually made vitamin A deficiency worse, quote, by sucking in and tying up resources that could have gone to methods of dealing with the problem we know are effective, has it sucked up enough resources to have actually possibly worsened the problem? So that was what Philpott said, and here's what Stone said. Genetic engineering has sucked up a lot of resources, and had it not come along, or had it not played the role maybe some of those resources would have gone to other kinds of crop development. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think it has sucked resources away from things that might have been done. Whether or not it has led to a worsening of vitamin A, I can't say, but I certainly think you have a good point on its potentially negative impact on the directions of other interventions. That's very badly worded, but I mean, the fact is, as we just talked about, thanks to the anti-GMO groups, there hasn't been a lot of funding or support for this. They've been doing this very minimally. So what's it been sucking up? So, I mean, Stone basically has no basis for his claim that the anti-GMO people have not been obstructing this. They have. It's pretty much been the single biggest obstruction that golden rice has seen. And trying to say, oh, well, it's because of the problems with golden rice itself, it's just a lie. It's just a lie. So all of that makes Glenn Stone this week's biggest Bogon emitter. History is written by the winners, and so apparently is economics. That's why there's LibertyClassroom.com. Probably the best single learning resource for history and economics on the web, LibertyClassroom.com teaches U.S. history, Western Civ, and economics from actual university professors. There's lots of free material to get you started, including introductory lectures on all these subjects, and when you sign up, you get the full site's content for just $99 a year, less than the price of 2 cups of coffee a month. And if you type in the promo code Bogosity in all caps, you'll get your first year for just $88. Lectures are available in both video and audio format, so you can watch or listen to them on your computer, your phone or tablet, or in your car. Learn at your own pace about the subjects you're interested in and become a more effective debater. You'll also get access to lots of supplemental materials and even the professors themselves via the discussion forum and even live video chats. Inform yourself against the myths and propaganda of our society. Visit LibertyClassroom.com. And now let's lock and load this week's Idiot Extraordinaire! And this week, it goes to Gersh Kuntzman, who claims to be suffering from temporary PTSD after firing an AR-15. Personally, I'd like to know which psychiatrist diagnosed him. Yeah, I mean, this is one of the things that really gets me about all these leftists, and especially SJWs claiming, oh, that tweet gave me PTSD. Okay, can we see the report from your psychiatrist confirming that?
No. Oh, well then I guess you're full of crap.
Now your first clue here is that he likened the weapon to a bazooka, which is actually a kind of rocket launcher.
And come on, even I know that something that shoots bullets is different from something that shoots explosives. Come on!
And second, the round that he used was a 5.56 by 45 millimeter. That was specifically designed to be a lighter round with better control and less kick.
I'm sorry, but I have to read what he said. I'm gonna say it in a terrible voice. I gotta do this. The recoil bruised my shoulder. The brass shell casings disoriented me as they flew past my face.
Then you're holding the gun wrong! That's not where the shells go! What is he, like, holding it right next to his head, like with the butt right next to his ear, firing it?
The smell of sulfur and destruction made me sick. The explosions, loud like a bomb.
You're supposed to wear ear protection.
No kidding. Gave me a temporary form of PTSD. For at least an hour after firing the gun just a few times, I was anxious and irritable.
I didn't know PTSD wore off after a few hours.
Oh, if only.
Yeah, so people just jumped on him from all over the place about the PTSD claim, so he backed up on that, quote, "Many people have objected to my use of the term PTSD in the above story. The use of this term was in no way meant to conflate my very temporary anxiety with the very real condition experienced by many of our brave men and women in uniform. I regret the inarticulate use of the term to describe my in-the-moment impression of the gun's firepower and apologize for it."
And, of course, being the passive-aggressive POS that he is, he published a follow-up piece Wednesday titled, "To gun owners, you can't even have an opinion on assault rifles unless it's theirs, here's the proof." That, surprise, didn't exactly do much to quell his critics. Funny how that works.
Yeah, and, I mean, there are competitions where 13-year-old girls are firing these weapons. There were several women who responded to say that they fire these weapons all the time without any anxiety or PTSD. And the fact is, the rounds that it fires aren't really that much more powerful than rounds found in a lot of handguns. And there are actually handguns that fire bigger rounds that have greater kick and make more noise.
Like 9mm compared to the 5.56 ones.
Yeah, some of those 9mm, they really pack a wallop.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God. And of course... Hey there, Cupcake, reader Gary Haney writes. I never subscribed to the idea of gender confusion, but after reading your article on the AR-15, I'm a believer, because there's no way you and I are the same gender. You should surrender your testicles to the Department of Girly Men. I'm not sure where it's located, but your girlfriend Barack, I'm sure, does.
But then you have Idonia in the comments. I'm a woman and I fired that same type of weapon a couple of weeks ago. Boy, was it fun. No PTSD here. This precious little snowflake needs to go find himself a safe space. He should look for the nearest university. What a wuss.
Well said. Oh, God. He then says, well, masculinity is defined by the power to commit violence on a wide scale. I probably choose femininity. Well, unless it's the police that you no doubt support, or the military that you made a weak attempt to gain weak brownie points with earlier.
Although I think you might have something to say about some of these comments down here about how he's severely short on testosterone.
As someone with, legit hypogonadism, I've actually fired a gun. I thought it was fun. So... how does it feel to be an even bigger mimsy than a gay man with hypogonadism when I was only 6?
Well, and I fired all sorts of rifles. My dad had shotguns, and he taught me how to shoot those, and I fired other rifles before, and I even got to fire a muzzle loader, and even learned how to measure and pour the powder, and, I mean, this was all like when I was a teenager. No PTSD here. You have 51 Gaming in the comments, quote, "The AR-15 is one of, if not the most popular firearm among women shooters because it's light, easy to handle, and has virtually zero recoil. I shot one at the age of 9 years old for the first time, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. I guarantee this man had zero issue shooting his gun. He thought of a bunch of political buzzwords and regurgitated it into an article. Pure politics."
Yeah, sounds about right.
And there are also people in the comments wondering how he could possibly have smelled sulfur when those rounds used smokeless powder.
Oh, snap. He's just been caught lying through his teeth.
Yep. So with all that in mind, how could Gersh Kuntzman not be this week's
Idiot Extraordinaire?
Well, that wraps up this. This community means about as much to me as a festering bowl of dog snot edition of the Bogosity podcast. Come join the discussion at forum.bogosity.tv and feel free to join in by sending a question, statement, news article, or rant in text or audio to podcast@bogosity.tv. This podcast depends on you to keep going, so please donate using the links on the website or the QR codes in the thumbnail. You can also become a patron at patreon.bogosity.tv and get the podcast and YouTube videos early and without ads or promos. Thank you for listening, and thanks again to Travis Retriever for joining me.
Twas a blast, as always.
Until next time, here's a quote from Robert LeFevre. Governments, by their nature, are instruments of privilege. The Bogosity podcast is licensed under Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives 4.0 International License.
Bogosity.
Want answers to creationist claims against evolution? Would you like to know more about evolution yourself, or even engage creationists more directly, with actual peer-reviewed sources to back you up? My book, How Evolution is Scientific, is designed to show the basics of evolutionary theory and how it is so well supported using the scientific method. It's impeccably sourced, with references to the actual scientific material, and is arranged using the creationists' own criteria of what is scientific. Using their own arguments against them, see how evolution is scientific, but creationism is not, based on observations, accurate predictions, logic, and evidence. Get answers to common creationist claims, and even a primer on abiogenesis, the start of all life. It's all in my book, How Evolution is Scientific, available at Amazon and on Kindle, EPUB, and PDF as well. Get How Evolution is Scientific and never be taken in by creationists again.
I see what you did there.
I had to pick that one. All these, by the way, for people who haven't figured it out, are from Weird Al Yankovic's movie UHF, which is great and you need to go see it.
Oh, well, you know it's good if it's from Weird Al. I mean, he is just pure win.
Well, and this is back from his, glasses and mustache and powder puff hair days, so.
I personally like this style like that better than his newer one, but, to each his own.